Welcome back to UK Able News, the March edition with me, Simon Wilson. In this edition, we are just looking at one story, the Assisted Dying Bill. I am going to go through the bill and look at responses from politicians and charities. At the end, I will give my analysis of it. There has been massive coverage in the news lately. There has been lots of discussion about how the bill has been written and the implications of people who will be affected by it. The official summary of the bill is to allow adults who are terminally ill to die whilst having safeguarding parameters in place. The person needs to have an illness for at least 6 months before, and they would need to ask permission to end their life. In the original bill, in order for assisted dying to be considered, the person needs to make an application which finally ends up at the High Court. However, this could only be carried out if the person signs a declaration which they have a voluntary, informed and settled wish to end their life. They have to do this in the presence of a witness who is not a relative or is not directly involved with the person's care. There are various medical professionals who should be present. The bill has lots of safety nets in it, such as the attending doctor and the independent doctor must examine the person in the person's medical records, acting independently of each other, and they must be satisfied that the person is terminally ill and has capacity to make the decision to end their life. Also, they have a settled and clear intention to end their life which is totally their decision. For example, the person should not feel pressured in any way. When the bill was originally written, there were a number of safety measures put in place such as, all the checks have been done, the doctor had to make a declaration to the High Court to obtain consent to prescribe medicines for that professional to enable the person to end their life. The bill has very clear guidelines about how the medicines are administered. If the person cannot administer it themselves, specific guidelines are to be in place. The bill highlights new criminal offences in relation to going ahead in assisting someone to die, and these are: where dishonesty, coercion or pressure is used to induce a person to make or not to cancel a first or second declaration, or self-administer an approved substance. To make or knowingly use a false first or second declaration, or willingly destroy one. To knowingly or recklessly provide a medical or other professional opinion which is false or misleading. To willfully ignore or otherwise conceal knowledge of a cancellation of a first or second declaration. Recently, there have been amendments and the majority of MPs voted for the professionals not to go to the High Court to approve it. Instead of having to seek approval from the High Court, they are going to replace it with a dedicated commission and an expert panel. Spain is the only country required a panel to assess every single death, and no country require the involvement of the High Court. Also, most jurisdictions trust 2 independent doctors to assess a patient and not a third layer of oversight, such as the High Court. The Chief Executive of Humanists UK welcomes the decision, saying a multidisciplinary panel will make assisted dying more efficient and accessible while making the safeguarding aspects more rigorous. Various MPs added their reasons for voting for it, such as doing it this way removing hours and hours of bureaucracy. One MP pointed out most jurisdictions, 2 doctors can make the assessment and the assisted dying can go ahead. They insist this will still provide a compassionate, patient-centered and safeguarded approach. In November 2024, Hospice UK said it remained neutral on whether the law should be changed, a view shared by 200 hospices. They went on to say that palliative end-of-life care in the UK is at an excellent standard. However, evidence shows very few people can have access to this specialized care. Furthermore, since the population is aging rapidly, hospices are cutting back on such services because of funding. Days later, the chief executive of Hospice UK said they were encouraged with the debates in the weeks leading up to November, commenting that all parties on all sides have been united on this issue. He emphasized the fact that palliative care is not sufficient in the UK and people are not getting the care they need. Hospice UK has said before that it is intolerable that people might choose an assisted dying because of the fear of not getting the care that they need. That fear is real at the moment. The chief executive of MIND acknowledged there are deeply held views on both sides of the debate, but she made it clear it is not their place to decide assisted dying should be legalized. She said reforming and investing in mental health services need to be stepped up, and we need to tackle the stigma so that people with mental health issues feel that they can ask for, and have quality care and support, and it is administered in a timely manner. When I look at the bill, I think it is laid out quite well. There seem to have quite a lot of safety measures in place. However, I have heard various people on podcasts saying, people might feel pressured to end their life. This could be for financial reasons or not enough human support. We are experiencing a funding crisis in this country. This, then, has an impact on how much care and support the people can receive. Also, it seems like services such as the NHS, Hospices UK and mental health need to work together to provide people with the right support. For example, someone with depression might need talking therapy rather than going down the assisted dying route. I think at the moment, it is a very rigid approach, whereas a much more tailored and flexible approach would be better. Assisted dying should be the very last resort, and it has to be done well, with lots of love and compassion. I think the NHS should not be a part of it, because the ethos of the NHS is to get people well, but now I think it gives very mixed messages. I feel uncomfortable with the politicians amending the bill so that medical professionals do not have to seek approval from the High Court. I think we have to remember going through with assisted dying is a huge event, so such a decision needs examining carefully. Also, there is the issue about coercion. It is hard to see how that would be detected. For example, before someone goes to the doctors, a relative may say, putting you in a care home would cost lots of money and your grandchildren want to go to university. It is a horrible thought to consider, but this could be the reality of some people. When they see the doctors, they might take that into account, so feel assisted dying is the only option. Is that coercion or something else? I think more discussion should be had. The NHS is stretched enough as it is, so having an extra service to offer would damage it. As I said, the bill is assisting people to die rather than treating them to live. This completely goes against what the NHS stands for. With people in chronic pain all the time and in constant distress, the assisted dying bill is very helpful. However, for mental health issues, I question the need for it. I think psychological help should be thoroughly explored before mentioning assisted dying. It all seems very rushed to me. My overall assessment of it is more discussion should be had. I think they should still have the involvement for the High Court, as this would be an added safeguarding measure. What about this expert panel which will be replacing the High Court? How would these people be selected and what skills would they require? Who would do the background checks on them? There are lots more questions that need answering. It all seems not very well thought out to me. I hope you have found this news edition useful. I have tried to be as objective as possible. I will be interested to hear your views on this subject.